Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. And there has been a recurring subject of culture in fixed operations. And nobody better to take us through that than Kaylee Felio from PartsEdge, who's going to lead an all-star panel. Kaylee, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thanks for having me back.
Hey, great to have you. And I see the panel we've got assembled here. So I think your topic, as I said, is extremely timely, never more important than right now. And all the back and forth between parts and techs and service. So with that, Kaylee, I'm going to step out of the way and I'll let you get things rolling today.
Thank you. All right, everyone. So let's go through and introduce you guys individually so everyone knows who you are. We'll start with Holden and then we'll go down the line.
Holden Scott, Fixed Ops Director at Regal Nissan in Roswell, Georgia.
Don White, I'm the Parts Director for the Step One Automotive Group out of Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
And then we'll go to James.
Hey, James Holloway, After Sales Business Development with Swickard Auto Group, covers 4 states, and I help our parts managers sell more parts.
Hello, Mike Weldon with the Hansel Auto Group, Fixed Ops Director for our 9 franchises, 8 rooftops, and our collision center out here in Santa Rosa, California. Glad to be part of this.
Hi, Sean Perrette, Parts Manager, Mercedes-Benz of Farmington, Utah, which is part of the Schomp Automotive Group.
Thank you guys for joining. I feel like we have a great mix here, you know, parts directors, fixed ops, and after sales. So let's start with talking about what causes the disconnect between the departments. And let's focus on technicians because I feel like that's a super hot topic right now because of the shortage. So what would you guys say, or what are the causes of the disconnect? And we'll start with Holden on that one.
I mean, I'm one of those people, I believe pretty much any problem can be traced back to ego. So whether it's the technician or parts counter or anything else, a lot of times people just think they're sometimes a little bit more important than what they are and have a hard time seeing that a lot of it comes down to teamwork rather than just the individual. Each individual has to do their specific job great. But I think sometimes you see that ego start creeping in. And I think that causes a lot of problems. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that. And so, Sean, let's talk about what you recently did in your department to kind of bridge that with the technicians, because you created a post on LinkedIn talking about how you put a parts person in the shop with the techs.
One of the biggest things we had is we had a lot of our technicians losing confidence in our parts department. And it's more or less inexperience from the parts advisor side and experience on the technician side also. So what we did is we wanted to have that connect and provide culture also between the parts department and the shop. So what we did is we put one of our parts advisors full time into the shop, and they basically go over every repair order that there's any type of questions on. And we always make a reference. We try to do it like the restaurant industry, where if a waiter comes to your table, they go over and confirm everything you need, how you want your steak cooked. You know, do you want lemon in your ice water? Do you not want lemon in your ice water? Things like that. So anytime there's any type of question between, you know, for any type of job request that the parts advisors just not a given, like brakes or air filters, cabins, things like that, they confirm the entire job with the technician at their bay.
And so you did that because of the communication and having them there so they can confirm and have more confidence in so that's kind of where the disconnect is the lack of confidence in the teams. So Mike, let's talk about your operation with all your dealerships. How do you guys create synergy with all the departments and getting everyone to communicate well?
This is an age-old concern I think we've all been addressing, and we've gone to the extreme is where we're actually sitting down now, like we have committees, voice of the technicians. We now have parts mastermind. We've had service mastermind. Now we've got a synergy project going on with various different departments working and putting spokespeople from each department into that group to work out the details and the roadblocks that we're, up against, and trying to build that synergy that's missing. To Sean's point, he just mentioned that he put somebody out in the shop. That's one thing that we've addressed, is that we've asked our parts people to go out, verify what the technician needs. Sometimes that visual helps, and it's starting to break down some of the barriers. So, he started something that's, I think we're all going to have to do more of as we go down the line, is to get everybody to cross that line, because there are a lot of egos that we deal with every day, but that's part of the business. So we just have to work through it.
Definitely. And just creating that teamwork aspect of getting, because I know it's been like historically parts and techs just kind of like butt heads. You never have enough parts. They want you to be the depot, and then they're constantly kind of working against each other, and then it's like we're working to create that teamwork aspect of like, let's work together. So Dawn, let's talk about your guys' operation. What do you see as some disconnects, and how you guys break through that?
Well, I mean, look, I've always looked upon technicians, they're kind of like an individual businessman. They're not part of the bigger team. And that's the way they look at themselves. What we've tried to do is try to include them in we have a saying here. It says, anybody can bring us problems. You need to bring us solutions. So we look to them more and more. They're a huge part of the cog in the wheel. So when we are having issues, we like to bring our techs in and say, hey, what's your idea on how to fix this? So we're trying to drop the silos and make them part of the bigger parts and service team. And that's probably our biggest solution. What's made us successful is that we are a team. It's not parts and service or service and parts. It's a combination of both, and we succeed when we all work together.
That makes sense. And I love that you guys include them, because you're right. They do kind of operate on their, like, it's kind of, they're separate, because, they that's just how they work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Just creating that connection. So that's great that you guys are doing that. James, how do you guys work through this and creating synergy with all the departments?
Well, I'd like to kind of go backwards in time and go to the dealer that I previously worked at. And I want to talk about one of the things that really impressed me is once every, I'd say probably 4 to 6 weeks, they would have what was called a technician advisory panel. So we call these TAP meetings. And again, this is all focused on communication. The general manager was there, the parts manager was there, the service manager was there. We had one person who would represent each department of fixed ops, and we would create a list of concerns, whether it was a defective piece of diagnostic equipment or a process that wasn't working or whatever it was. We would acknowledge all of those, right? We would write them down, we would prioritize them, and then we would all together as a group come up with a plan of action. And so every time that the group got together, we would say, okay, where are we on this number one? And we would get a full report. So-and-so's working on that. Oh, by the way, the vendor came out and fixed that problem. So we would cross it off the list. And I mean, think about it. We have whatever in the back end, I'm just going to throw a number out there, 10 people. In my experience, it's been very difficult to get 10 people to go in the same direction. Typically, you have 10 people going in 10 different directions. And it all comes down to, communication and culture. And going back to what Don said, I couldn't agree more how the technicians are independent business people. However, we all play a vital part, and we all have to see the vision and the common goal of what we're doing. Kind of like, looking down from 30,000 feet up and saying, okay, what are we doing here? We're fixing cars, right? And this is what this person does. And everybody has a role. And the other thing is in my experience is making sure that we acknowledge those people who are doing a good job, because maybe that's where as an industry as a whole, we're not we're not really doing as good of a job that we can by celebrating our employees or their accomplishments, especially when it comes to personal milestones, like whether they got certified or they reached a certain milestone within their career. Those are all things I think should be celebrated. So anyway, those are a few of my thoughts.
Yeah, those are great points. And that reminds me of Holden and what you do with your team. And I feel like you really celebrate the wins, and you have a fun way of doing that. Can you talk about that and share that with us?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably one of the biggest things is making sure everyone knows how tied in they are together. And so we do a lot of competitions, a lot of games, divide people up into teams, all kinds of things. And then always sharing the results within all the departments, sharing service results with parts results with service. That way everyone knows, hey, as much as sometimes technicians want to say all the parts guys on the counter are idiots, they're obviously not idiots if they're leading the district in part sales. Like, that's a big deal. And the vice versa. Hey, parts guys, this is a great place to work because you got advisors that are selling a lot of parts for y'all, and making sure, it's just something that I was doing this week, just essentially going through the departments and making sure everyone knows, like, hey, parts is on fire right now. They're doing a good job. But hey, service advisor on fire right now. They're doing a good job. And just kind of making sure everyone realizes if any of us break down, it affects the entire department as a whole. So it's really just breaking down those walls and sharing any kind of Google reviews that you get, anywhere where you can get good feedback, sharing it between all those departments. I have multiple group texts with all the different departments, whether it's express, technicians, advisors, parts counter, and just sharing all that information with each one of them, where they all know, hey, we're doing a fantastic job and each department's doing good. It just makes you feel good, makes you want to be a part of an organization like that and have some pride, not just in your work, but where you work as well.
Definitely. And I think that's where we've failed as an industry, is creating that excitement and culture of like, we're doing a great job as a team, and sharing that with them. And we're doing more than just doing a job. So I think you guys all do a great job in doing that, and that's why you're on the panel. But so Don, let's talk about your guys' operation and just why has it been such a struggle to keep people in our industry? Why do you guys think that keeps happening? It may not be happening at your dealerships, but like, where are we failing?
Well, I think in the past, it's always been, we're here and we're pushing numbers and we have to hit this and we have to hit that. And we're dealing with an entirely different culture now with the younger people coming into our business. Most millennials, and Sean Kingery and I have had many discussions about this. They're looking for quality of life. None of them want to work, 70 hours a week, bent over, the hood of a car. It's hot, it's tiresome, it's tough on the back. They're looking for the better things in life. And part of that is to be able to spend time with their families and friends. I think we have, as an industry, have to do a much better job at making that more realistic for people, instead of just saying, hey, you're working Monday through Saturday, 12 hours a day. And we've come a long way. There's some great ideas on this panel. I was actually listening to Sean Parrott earlier in the one he did previous. And they work a 4-day or 5-day work week with two days off, Sunday and Monday, which I think is a fantastic idea. We just now have to start thinking out of the box at what we've done in the past to make it where people want to join our industry in the future.
I agree. And then creating that lifestyle for the people, that the culture, because it's hard in retail to have that kind of flexible lifestyles, and that's what the millennials, or most people want. I think we've learned that through the pandemic, is the most important thing is our time with our family, and we got to slow down a little bit with that. Let's go to Mike. What's how do you or what are you guys feeling, or based on what Don said, how are you feeling about that?
Well, we have to look at our business a lot different, and I think than what we have in the past. And I guess the pandemic has kind of made us realize that we need to step back, and how we expect our employees to respond to the needs of the consumer, and then the consumer to respond to the needs of our employees. I think that is becoming really prevalent. You see it not only in our industry, you see it out. Well, I'll use Starbucks. My wife's a big Starbucks fan, and she knows about every Starbucks in the state of California and Nevada and surrounding states. And she's realizing they're starting to close down at 6 p.m. because they don't have the staffing, and then people don't want to work those hours. This is not new to us. We just really didn't pay a lot of attention to it. This started back, I'm going to date myself a tad, but this started back 20 years ago when we were going to schools and we were talking to students and we're trying to get them interested in our industry, and their parents on the backside, no, you're not going to get into the automotive industry. You're going to get into social media. You're going to get into computers. You're going to get into marketing. That's where you're going to put your efforts, and not in the automotive industry. And we're seeing that now because we're attracting less and less people to the field. We're all striving to bring in more people to lessen the load on our other people, and we're struggling. So we got a lot of work ahead of ourselves. We got to really work on this, and all the nice ideas and great ideas that I've picked up off this panel and from others, it really gets you to think a little bit differently, and hopefully the people that are viewing this broadcast will see the same.
Yeah, and let's talk about how we're attracting people into our industry and thinking outside of the box and where we can find people, because I think that's what we have to do. Is it's not the standard process anymore. So how are you guys attracting your people? Are you going out to find them? Are you asking your other employees if they know anyone? Sean, let's go to you and how you guys attract your employees.
What we've done is we try to change the names of the actual positions in the department, where I think we all know has been around forever. You had parts advisor, stock clerk. You had like kind of descriptions of the titles that anybody in our industry know what they are. But if you're hiring a person from outside the industry, do they know? They were like, well, how do you advise parts or clerk? They think they're just writing stuff down. So what we've tried to do is we have like inventory administrator. We have parts specialist. We have things like that when we put the jobs out, it attracts people that might not already be working in this industry as what the job entitles, because every job has a job description with 20 or 30 different things that the job takes care of. We try to shorten that down also. So it's just basically bullet points of the job position. So the person doesn't think, oh my gosh, I'm a parts advisor advising parts. I'm doing like 60 different things a day. Realistically, you probably are, but we don't try to overcomplicate our posts when we're looking for those people to fill those positions.
Yeah, and I think that people that don't have any parts experience are perfectly capable of doing the job. And I think when you see a job like that, it's not attractive because you're like, well, I don't know anything about parts. How could I be a parts specialist? So how can we reword that to help them in a way of like, this is exciting. You're going to learn a new job and be really good at it. Don, what about you guys? What do you guys do to
Kaylee, and this is really not any kind of new idea. We've partnered with a local technical college here in Florida that not only we're having tremendous success getting technicians out of, but something that I learned from, and I started going with Sean Kingery when he goes over and talks to them. I said, you put me in front of these young people and I can sell them on the car business in general. There's a lot of people that go through those programs that are technicians or want to be technicians, get into a 1 or 2 year program and realize, hey, I love cars, but I don't necessarily think I want to turn wrenches for the rest of my life. I've had a lot of luck going in and talking to those groups and saying, hey, I realize that all of you don't want to be technicians after coming through this program, but you love cars and you're looking for other opportunities. I've drafted some young guys out of there and turned them into parts salespeople. and have had tremendous success with that. But I mean, there's so many opportunities in the automotive industry as a whole, other than technicians or parts, or I mean, we have sales, we have so many opportunities that if you can put me in front of those people, I've had a lot of success to be able to sell them on what's good about the automotive industry as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is people, if you would have told me that I was going to work in auto, I would have said you were crazy.
Right.
So it's like getting in front of those people and telling them all the different opportunities is the biggest thing that we can do, I think. James, what about you guys, or how are you guys attracting or thinking outside the box?
Well, a couple things. At Swickard Auto Group, our Toyota store here in Seattle, we have a person whose sole, I guess you can say, purpose is to bring in people with zero automotive experience and show them the ropes and groom them and give them the tools and show them step by step and really hold their hand. And it's worked out really well. And I've seen a lot of other dealer groups do that as well, where another thing we're doing is job fairs, where people will just will advertise a job fair for the auto group and the entire auto group. People will show up, they'll ask questions, do you like, we'll try to assess, the strengths of the applicant, especially if they are really seem to be good communicators or people, like a people person. Then we would say, well, maybe, let's talk a little bit about becoming a salesperson. What does that look like? Or on the back end, because a lot of the applicants don't have any idea how a car dealership works. So it's up to us to explain it to them. But at the same time, it's a great opportunity for us to sell not only the position or the industry, but when you talk to a potential job applicant, I've always said, it's not, the wage is a lot to do with it, but there's what we call the hidden paycheck. And they're like, well, what's a hidden paycheck? The hidden paycheck is all the other stuff, like if you happen to work at Mercedes-Benz of Farmington, a benefit is that I get 2 days off in a row, or I get a 401k, or I have great health insurance, because I have a family and I have dependents, or there's a 401k. So all these little things, it's a great time to talk to these people, and that all of those things will attract people and get them to take the next step with us. But going back to our Toyota dealership, it's been working out really great. Matter of fact, I think there's a published article on that. So yeah.
That's awesome. Let's talk about the follow through. So once we attract the talent, how do we support them in keeping them? So like, I feel like sometimes it happens where we have someone join and then they leave the industry because they're disappointed because they didn't think it was the way it was going to be, or they didn't get training, and it's just the process. So after you guys have someone join your team, do you guys have a process, a structure of like, how do they learn everything that they need to learn? So I will go to, James, if you want to talk.
I just have to, this is another thing. It all begins, the retention, the employee retention all begins with proper onboarding. I can go on for 20 minutes about properly onboarding a new employee, but also to check in certain intervals, making sure that you hold their hand, you don't ignore them, having checkpoints along the way, all the way until they're 90 days, because typically in the industry, there's always what we call a 90-day introductory period. Let's do everything that we can to get them to the 90 days.
Yeah, that's exactly. So, and Holden, how do you, now I'm thinking back, what was my original question? Oh, the follow through. How do we keep them? How do you guys onboard your people?
I mean, obviously depends on the job. And then obviously after that, it depends on how much experience they have. If I have, an advisor or parts person who has no experience whatsoever, that process is going to look a lot different as far as guaranteed pay and things like that. But I think for me, one of the most important things I find is knowing your people and knowing what's important to them. And then that's how you deliver to those people, because I got some people I could throw all the cash in the world. They don't care. They'd work harder for an extra vacation day than they would $1,000 cash. I got other people, if you throw a $50 spiff out there, they will sell 1,000 tires if they have to, just to get a $50 spiff. Other people, words of encouragement, recognition. So you gotta, as a leader, you gotta know what all those hot button issues for each person and making sure you're pushing those buttons for those people, because ultimately that's why people leave or stay at a job is, satisfaction and recognition, and feeling like they're making a difference. So to me, it's really about developing those personal relationships with each person, and then knowing what drives them so that you can make sure you're pointing those things out or making sure that they get those things.
That brings a great point, because I think that's the biggest role as a manager or a leader, is learning what makes your people tick and their different personalities, and adjusting yourself to those personalities. Because I think that's where I've seen a lot of managers fail, is they assume that, you just have to yell at your team and then it's like they're going to do it. No, some people need different ways of communication, or maybe they need to be taught in different ways. That's another thing too, is identifying, well, this person learns by all four: showing, seeing, hearing, or this person, you can show them one thing one time and it's immediate. It doesn't mean the other person's less smart. It's just learning that. So Don, let's talk about how you guys onboard, or no, Sean, let's go to Sean. I feel like Don just talked about it. Sean, let's talk about how you guys onboard and just identifying those different personalities that Holden was talking about.
Well, it all starts with the interview. I mean, when you bring the person in, I mean, every company has their core values, but you want to make sure that the person you bring in, they might be the best at what they do, but does their attitudes, their personalities fit in with your current group of people that you have working with them? We have kind of, I can't say it here, but I would just easily say we have a no jerk policy to make it simple. So it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't have that right attitude where you can be respectful of others, we don't want you working here. So it just goes with the beginning of know that we're always going to have a good work environment here. You don't have to worry about if you're a new person, if you're not up to pace with everybody else, if you make a screw up or something like that, that you're going to have somebody blast you as the new guy or new girl here. So that's one thing here, is we present that in the interview, and I come out and say it is, we don't have people here working like that. So you don't have to worry about being the new guy making your mistake. It happens. We have accountability ways we can fix it. We can take care of the technician. If you're a parts advisor, you make a boo-boo and you screw up on something, we have ways we can work with the technician so that they're compensated for their wasted time. Second thing is, we always tell them that you're always going to get once a week, 1 hour training, one-on-one. It's not going to be, we're going to look at everything you're doing. It's just, you're going to be looking at, like, hey, here's how you can do your job. We even tell people, hey, you might have something outside the box that we might learn in that 1 hour training with you that we could pick up and show other people. Second is, you got to have one-on-ones constant with your people, because that's how you find out there's a problem. You have people that you might not have had a heart-to-heart with in a long time, others an issue, and you only need 8 to 10 minutes. You bring things up. How's everything going? How's the fam? You find out small problems before they're really big problems. And as long as you have that constant communication with everybody, you're not going to get caught surprised like later down the road there's a problem.
Yeah, and you brought up a great thing that I thought of was how do we make techs feel comfortable with those new parts people? But Ted just came on the screen, so.
No, I'm actually taking a lot of notes, Kaylee, because this really, this panel really is the best in the business, and I'm taking notes of how it's, this may be a parts panel, but what we're talking about today is the people, right? And it's all about the people, Mike Weldon. And I'm hearing from folks who've been on this panel before, and folks who are brand new to it and fairly new, and all the focus, Kaylee, is on the people and the things that we're doing with and for the people to develop them.
Yeah, exactly.
So, everyone, I'm going to ask you to come back and continue the discussion at our next event. Very powerful. So great information. And, Sean Parrott, you set the world on fire with that post on LinkedIn, and we're all talking about it. I get a feeling we'll be talking about that for some time ahead. James Holloway, thank you so much for all you do for our industry. Don White, a very, very welcome addition to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Thank you so much, Don, for sharing and imparting your knowledge with our group. So we're very, very thankful to you. Holden Scott, great job as always. You are thinking outside the box. I see everything that you do. So great stuff. Mike Weldon, Mike, you and I continue to learn, right, from what we see out there. So great observations, Mike, on all that we do. And Kaylee, Kaylee Felio at PartsEdge, thank you for all that you do for our industry. So, your star is definitely rising, so we can all see that. So thanks, everybody. Kaylee Felio and the panel here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Thank you.
Thank you.